Hey, if you're enjoying Hooks and Ladders, and why wouldn't you be enjoying Hooks and Ladders? Be sure to like and subscribe, follow us on social media, and hey, head on over to songstudio.ca to check out what we're up to. If you sign up for our mailing list, you'll be the first to know everything that's coming up and everything special that we got going on at SongStudio. You won't regret it. Hey, welcome to Hooks and Ladders. What you're about to see is part of what we did at the SongStudio workshop in Toronto in July 2022. There'll be lots more to see. We're just going to roll it out a little bit at a time. So sit back and enjoy. And if you want to know more about SongStudio, visit www.songstudio.ca and check us out. Enjoy.
I've been super fortunate, knock on everything. What is that? Melamine?
Yeah.
To work with incredibly great collaborators. Nobody's got a whip. Nobody's coming down from, nobody sits on their high horse. The creatives that I work with are very collaborative, but they do have their ideas, which is why
they're there. Yeah.
Why they're there.
Yeah.
There's the original thought and the original idea and the writing room that they oversee and the initial scripts that they write. A lot of them that I work with, very musical, and they will also find songs. Let's not forget, I'm one person who finds songs.
Right.
There's 20 people. Yeah. There's a producer. There's a writer. There's even Elizabeth Moss sent a song in, and we used it, a Heart of Glass remix that we used in one of the episodes. So I'm just one, but I help kind of corral it all. And they didn't use, there's 4 or 5 songs that were so great, and I loved them when we put them to picture. And they went with an old Nina Simone Feeling Good track, which also worked, but it's been used a lot. And I will say to them, and I do say to them, that this song, as we talked about, has been used.
Yeah.
Like, if it fits, I don't care. I'm like, okay, and that's great. And that's great, yeah.
How do you price it? How do you negotiate? And can you trust the music supervisor to say this is really the budget?
You should never trust a music supervisor. I'm kidding. You can delete that. Yeah, you have to. We build all of our. It raises an ethics question, and it raises a personal philosophical characteristic that I hold dear, which is relationships. And you need to be entrusted and create those relationships whereby when I say to Universal Music, I got 10 grand for that recording, that's all I have, then they have to understand that I have 10 grand for the recording, 10 grand for the publishing, whoever wrote the song.
For the song.
The song, the lyrics and the melody, not the
recording.
Which is this thing. And I've got 20 grand. And you have discussions about that. And they say we need 12.5. We never do it for less than 12.5 for the recording and 12.5 for the publishing. And you have discussions, or you might be able to go back to your producer, say we need a little bit of money. I have worked on shows I worked on Degrassi. So Degrassi, for 12 years, we worked on Degrassi. We had minimal dollars, and we had anywhere between 6 and 9 songs an episode.
Wow. So
we weren't paying a lot of money. And a lot of independent artists were okay with that. I'm not necessarily, I will sit here and say I'm not necessarily proud, but I'm also on one side of the coin. The other side is I'm happy to have been able to license independent Canadian artists, American artists, whoever, for this, even if it's $500 or $1,000 or something. And that's another long discussion. But we tell people, this is what we have. We went out for a Lady Gaga song, a song called Poker Face that you may have heard. And I said to, this is for Degrassi, and I said, we'll go try. I'll put together some dollars like, can you afford this? They said, yeah, we'll find a little bit of money. So maybe we'll find like 10 grand for it. I'm like, so I write a letter, the Pulitzer Prize winning letter. I'm very happy that I used to write a lot of letters to my girlfriends way back in high school and throughout my life. So the letters are a little bit different to the licensors, mind you, but my writing skills, my writing chops were good. And we went out to, I think she has 2 or 3 writers on that song. So I thought, let's go to Universal Music, who has the recording. They're going to go to her and her management directly. I'm not going to deal with the writers. That's 3 or 4 people and 3 or 4 publishers. And let's get Lady Gaga to say yes, because everything has to go through the artist, basically. 6 hours later, 6 hours, came back, agreed to our fee, which was not a lot, and said she loves Degrassi and loves Canada.
Wow.
And so these things happen, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm answering any of your questions, but it's just triggering me to think that everything's a negotiation. Everything is also the significance of the work and the project that I'm on. Recently, I've been working on very meaningful projects that don't have a lot of money, and people are hopefully going to just jump on and be super supportive. Handmaid's Tale, they're like, I know you've got money. I know you've got money. And we spent a lot of money. You know, the Nina Simone tracks, and we used Kylie Minogue, and we used Don't You Forget About Me, and that was a bit of a negotiation. They wanted a bunch of money. For an independent artist, we're as honest as we can be. If we can give you $2,000, we'll give you $2,000. Average is $500 to $2,000, depending. An ad is totally different.
Yeah, ads.
Sorry, ad is totally different. This is more
Ads,
film.
this
TV.
is all film and TV. Yeah, ads are different. There are no royalties paid on ad playing. Where is my brain going? When an ad is played on TV, there are no royalties paid.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's true.
That's
that is,
right.
That
right.
is changing.
I think that's changing.
Yeah, I think that's changing.
In
But
Canada.
But on TV shows in the soundtrack. Now, I want to address Michelle's question from the point of view of an indie artist, and that is, I've always, anybody who comes to me offering me money to do something, I always view them as my friend, and I'm not mistrustful of them, because those opportunities come infrequently. And also, you establish relationships, as Michael said. I've known Michael for a long, long time. Even though we're not close, we don't hang out, but we could. I like him. The point being, and
I'm free Thursday night.
I was going to say he didn't respond to that, my overture. But the point is, I trust him, and I really think if they come to me and they say, this song of yours, I think it could really work in this scene, and we'd like to, assuming the producers and director likes it, we would like to use it, and we have X number of dollars. My answer is always yes. I mean, it's non-exclusive, unless it's or a documentary promoting the Nazi Party of Canada, or it's some otherwise objectionable thing that I can't put my music in. I'm going to say yes.
And that's
you'll find out well in advance.
And sorry, and that's a great point. And I didn't fully answer your question. 2 things. One is you can always ask questions to the music supervisor. 2 is, if they offer you $500, you can ask for $750. You can ask for $20,000. You can ask whatever you want. But I would caution, and it has nothing to do with you it's more the situation, that sometimes it is $500. And but you have every right, because it's your song, your life, your rent, your world, to ask. I will again say that 95% of the time, a supervisor will tell you what they have. So I do have some breathing room, but my job is also to manage the budget, because 3 episodes down the line, we might get a Radiohead song for $75,000, and I need some independent music for $1,000, $2,000. I agree wholeheartedly with Blair about the relationship building. And I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I've built a really strong relationship, not just with the record labels and publishers, and I've traveled around the world, which is a beautiful perk to my job, and I never think I have a job.
That's a perk too.
Which is a perk too, yeah, big perk. And But I've built a relationship with the independent community and artists and writers and independent publishers and people like Blair, for example, if he's like, you got to listen to this music, and you listen to this music. So, but you also have to look out for yourselves. And if you're not sure about when an email comes in from a supervisor, call a friend, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or a hundredaire in my case. But call somebody who's maybe done it before and say, hey, I got this. What do you think of this? And they may have gone through it with me, with another supervisor. It's important to work with your community. Even us supervisors, we have a community. You know, we have a Guild of Music Supervisors Canada, and there's 25 of us. I'm the president. It's been about 6 years. We all talk about various things that go on. You know, we either have meetings, we have calls, we have emails. So we use our community. You as songwriters can use your community, which is probably why one of the reasons SongStudio was created.
That's true. Yeah. And it's interesting. You know, beyond SongStudio, there's quite a lot of activity with the people who have attended over the years.
Yeah,
so it's pretty great.
Exactly.
But
Sorry, there was a question.
Oh, right. Okay.
I saw.
I did have a little question.
Yeah.
Just because I'm having trouble understanding what license fully means, so you said renting, which kind of helps a little. So if my song was on an episode of like Degrassi season 3, episode 4, for example, every time that episode gets played, would I be getting some kind of
Great question.
like an upfront?
Okay.
There's two forms of payment. One is upfront, and the other one is a royalty.
He's much more succinct than I am. He is right, as always. When we pay an upfront fee of, let's say it's $1,000, you wrote the song, you own the recording, here's the $1,000, you sign a contract. It's not a spooky contract. There aren't a lot of time bombs in the contract. It's pretty standard. Just as we have the right to use it in this episode for perpetuity, a little bit of legalese, but you still own it. We're licensing it. It says it's non-exclusive. That's the only fee that you're going to get from the production. However, when we file a cue sheet, or do we know cue sheets?
Cue sheets are the piece of paper or electronic piece of paper that accompanies a television or film production that lists all of the music in the production, gives the length, the composer name, the publisher if there is one. But the cue sheet has everything, and it tells you where the piece of music is in the production and the duration of it, and whether it's a feature use, that means upfront. The way Running Up That Hill might be used in Stranger Things at times, or whether it's being played on a radio, which Running on Up That Hill was also used in that way. So it could be a background use or it could be a feature use. So a cue sheet is the documentation of where it appears in that episode.
And the production, music supervisor, a music editor, creates this cue sheet with listing all the cues, publishers, writers, and they submit it to SOCAN. If you're all a member of SOCAN, in the US you might be a member of ASCAP, and Australia you might be a member of APRA, I think it's APRA, etc. So that cue sheet goes into the SOCAN matrix of their world. They input all the information, and the information shows that your song, as a writer and self-published, 100%, for 38 seconds, played in the back of a diner. Well, it just says
It would say background. Yeah.
background vocal. Doesn't say diner. That information is somehow distributed throughout the world in some way, shape, or form. It's kind of like getting the Caramilk inside the Caramilk square. I have no idea how it works, but it's nuts. And every time that episode is played, forever, on Netflix, on TV stations in 190 countries. I think Degrassi, for example, was in 160 countries. Ostensibly, you were supposed to see some royalties. How much for that 38 seconds? It depends on about 200 things.
Yeah.
So yes, you should see royalties in your statements and all that jazz. but that upfront fee of $1,000 that I give you comes from the producer or the production company, and that's it. They won't owe you another penny. It's all SOCAN and any other neighboring rights, if there are neighboring rights, which I'm not going to get into.
Yeah, that's a whole other
super
thing.
complicated.
Yeah. But the point is that the end of Michael's involvement as music supervisor is when you agree to license your music and he presents it to the client and it's put in the show and the cue sheet is filed and that's it. That's where it ends.
And the license, of course. We get you the license, you sign it, we pay you.
Yeah.
And then hopefully I speak to you again because you've got some more great music for another show.
Exactly, building relationships. So for me, that was always why I didn't want to negotiate. I wasn't in a position to negotiate really hard, so I would just say yes most of the time. If I suspected there might be more money, I would say, do you have any more money? And I would trust them when they would say, actually, no. Sometimes, occasionally, they would say, you know what, I could probably get another, whatever, $250 or whatever. But that's the end of Michael's involvement. The royalties are post broadcast, really, or post distribution of the film or TV show. Right? Perfect.
We hope you've enjoyed this little taste of the SongStudio workshop in Toronto in July 2022. Stay tuned for more.